Experience the future of packaging and processing up close and in action. Explore groundbreaking innovations, engage with hands-on solutions, and connect with the experts transforming the industry. See how these advancements can revolutionize your products, production lines, and business. It all starts here. Don't miss out. Register today at packexpolasvegas.com/unpackedpod. You're listening to Unpacked with PMMI, where we share the latest packaging and processing industry insights, research, and innovations to help you advance your business. Hi, and welcome to part 2 of our special 6-part sustainability series of Unpacked with Packaging World editors Anne-Marie Mohan and Matt Reynolds. As always, I'm your host, Sean Riley, and today the three of us take a deep dive into aluminum recycling. Matt and Anne-Marie cover sustainability daily for leading packaging publication Packaging World. Aluminum recycling, as anyone who has ever recycled an empty can of soda or beer, is one of society's earliest steps to ensuring packaging sustainability. Recently, it has been the material of choice for brands attempting to move from materials the public may see as less than ideal for a sustainable future. Infinitely recyclable is the tagline most used by aluminum advocates, and Anne-Marie and Matt each explain how true they feel that statement is, and where aluminum continues to make inroads into new product categories. So let's jump right in. Welcome back to the podcast, Anne-Marie Mohan and Matt Reynolds. Welcome, Anne-Marie.
Wonderful to be here.
Welcome, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is all mine. I'm an aluminum guy. I like aluminum. I like a nice can of beer in aluminum. I don't know why I prefer it over glass, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about aluminum from a sustainability and a recycling standpoint. It's kind of all the rage. Everybody's switching to aluminum. And I guess the first thing, or the first question, the cynic in me, aluminum is something that we have to mine from the earth. So that's the first thing I think of, is how is this something that is so wonderful if we have to mine it from the earth? And then you get into, it's also heavy, and then you get into, it can be dented. And I just feel like there's a slew of things that sort of get overlooked when we talk about, but it's so easily recyclable. So is the whole hype, and again, I'm an aluminum guy, I'm not trying to make any enemies of the aluminum people. Is the hype behind aluminum true? Is it as good as they say when it comes to that? I guess if you guys could just give me a little clarity on that. How about that, Anne-Marie?
That's a great question, and it's something I myself wondered as I was covering a lot of these companies who are making the switch from plastic to aluminum, because plastic is recyclable. So why is aluminum better when plastic has a lot of sustainability advantages, including being lighter? What really put it into perspective for me and kind of answered the question for me was a presentation I heard at Circularity 22 a couple weeks ago. There was a speaker there from Grove Collaborative, Danielle Jasnicki, and she is a senior director of sustainability for Grove. And Grove is really trying to move away from plastics entirely. And she said, it's not that if we're trying to get to a circular system, aluminum is the next best, or is better than plastic, because it is recycled at such a higher rate. So it's not that plastic isn't recycled, but also there's the issue of plastic degrading after each time you recycle it, whereas aluminum is infinitely recyclable. So no matter how many times it's recycled, it still has the same properties as it did initially.
Yeah, Anne-Marie, I would say the same thing, in that I got a lot of the same press releases that you did, and they all were using this phrase, infinitely recyclable, and it was, 201, you would see the word infinitely recyclable and it would be used. So obviously it raises this marketing, is this greenwashing. But when you think about it, yeah, you mentioned the degradation of plastic. That's true for paper as well. I mean, you think of paper as the most recyclable,
Sure, it's a tree.
but the more every cycle, those strands, those fibers that make up, any kind of wood or pulp-based kind of material, they're getting shorter. They're getting shorter, and they're losing their robustness. They're losing some of the properties that they have. So among those materials, aluminum really is the only one that can say infinitely recyclable. Glass can too, because glass, you can melt that down and be glass used again. But glass does not. It doesn't have the qualities of lightweighting at the right weight, and it's also shatter prone, which obviously aluminum doesn't have. So that infinitely recyclable tagline, while we were both apparently skeptical of it, I mean, it really does ring true to me. Another factor is not just that it's recycled more, which is absolutely true. Of the major materials, or at least against plastic, I think aluminum is by far recycled more, but each individual can itself, let's say you imagine a 12-ounce can, it's up to, this, I think the stat is from 2018, so it was a while back, but it's been recycled already. Like 68% of that can has gone through a few cycles. You mentioned mining it from the earth, extracting the ore. A lot of carbon emissions go into your John Deere or whatever the big machinery that is that takes that out of the earth, but amortize that over cycle after cycle after cycle, as the phrase says, infinitely, and suddenly the actual cost per cycle goes way down. So when you're removing it from the earth and you're first creating virgin aluminum, obviously a lot goes into it, but then after each recycling, only 8% of that original output goes in. So the longer you use it and the more cycles you can get out of it, and the percentage of recycled material, PCR material, in any given can is only going to increase over time. As each cycle goes, you're going to get a larger amount of PCR in there. So not only is it recycled more, but it's using PCR. So of the materials, it's the closest to an already existing circular system.
So I guess the question for me now is, it seems that everything we're hearing about is moving from plastic to aluminum. And I seem to remember, I guess, as a kid, that it was things started out in aluminum, then it might work its way to glass, and then glass kind of made its way um, into plastic as we got away from glass a little bit, because you could drop it, it was shatterproof, things like that. Now it seems like we've come full circle back to aluminum. So is that just kind of the case in general, where we see a lot of things moving specifically from plastic to aluminum?
I think there are definitely case studies out there. I wouldn't say it's the majority, but it's happening. And Matt and I covered a number of personal care products that made the switch from plastic to aluminum. Maybe last year we talked about it, but a lot of these products too are position themselves as more sustainable in their ingredients and their formulas. So it really makes sense for them to also display sustainability through their packaging. And one company I talked to was called Hand in Hand, and they make hand soaps and hand sanitizer, and due to the ingredients, they call them sustainable suds. So they told me that one of the reasons they made the switch was exactly what we've been talking about, is plastic's low recycling rate. And Matt mentioned it earlier, and I think I did as well, that plastic is recycled much less. The rate is much smaller than aluminum. And just to put that into perspective, we have in the US a 65% recycling rate for aluminum. And then PET beverage bottles, which most people, I would say, are where they can be recycled, we only have a 27.9% recycling rate. And then for all plastic packaging, it's only 5 to 6%. So that is why some of these companies, as I said, Grove, made the switch, because they feel like it will be recycled. It's more likely to be recycled. And that's what Hand in Hand did. That's what another company did, Eva NYC. They do hair care products. Okay. And they moved their whole line over to these beautiful aluminum bottles, beautifully printed aluminum bottles. And they did it because of the scourge of plastics in the personal care industry. The personal care industry is really getting beaten up over that. So that was one of the reasons they made that change too.
Interesting. And I would also think it would look, and I think especially in that sector where they're looking for a differentiation, but also for, it looks like a more premium product, because I seem to recall a lot of people using shiny aluminum type foils in their plastic, or on their plastic labeling and in their design to showcase premiumization. So I guess going to aluminum mat would be something that would pop them up a little bit.
Yeah, well, the perception of other materials outside of plastic, is for heavier weight, pleasurable tactile
Right.
experience,
Hmm.
and something that's durable, that's going to last. You can go two directions for, let's say, personal care products. You can go towards glass, or you can go towards aluminum, and only one is going to be shatterproof and comparatively quite a bit lighter. It's a question of the gauge. How thick does it need to be? Oftentimes for personal care products, it doesn't even need to be that thick. And another trend Anne Marie and I are following like crazy has been uh, the move away from single use. So in the move away from single use, then plastics are being skewed basically in favor of something that's going to be durable, that'll be sit around, your whether it's your bathroom for shampoo, lotion, these kinds of things forever. They can be refilled, and they can be refilled either with a pouch, something that might be film, could be refilled with aluminum. But regardless, beautiful. You mentioned the screen printing that's done on some of these is gorgeous, and that can sit in a bathroom setting with a closure and just be refilled, over and over. You're not even doing the thing that makes aluminum so valuable, so attractive, and that's recycling it. Eventually, you can, but because it's a durable product that won't shatter in the bathroom, then that's why people are going that route for their premiumization instead of glass.
Interesting.
And I think you brought up a great point about the reuse aspect. I recently worked with Brita Water and their co-packer, Be Water and Beverages. Brita wanted to introduce their filtered water product at retail, and they wanted something sustainable and premium in appearance. And so they developed with Trivium aluminum bottle cans in 18 and I think 25-ounce sizes, and they're marketing them as being reusable. They're talking about reusing it throughout the day. So you're at work, you keep refilling it, but it's pretty durable. It's impact extruded, and the president of Be Water and Beverages said she compared it to like a beverage bottle, between a beverage bottle and a stainless steel container.
Like the refillable water that everyone uses now. Okay. So like it's somewhere in between there. So it'll get you through a day or two, but you're not taking it on hikes and such like that over and over and over again. That's interesting. I hadn't honestly heard about that at all. And what we do hear a lot is people going in with new products, or we've heard some personal care ones. Are there people adding, because especially with craft brew, I know craft brew came in and a lot of them jumped right into cans because it was easier. It was easier to get a hold of the cans. It was easier to fill. It was more cost effective, but it was also more sustainable. Are there people adding aluminum into their portfolios, say their products in glass, but now they're offering aluminum options because of the many good traits of aluminum?
Absolutely, and one very high profile company is Coca-Cola. They've introduced their Dasani water and Smart Water in both cans, and I think in Smart Water's case, in a bottle can, aluminum. It doesn't replace their plastic, but it gives consumers another option. And for Coca-Cola and companies like it, they are on this path of making sure they have commitments around sustainable packaging for 2025, and it's about reducing or eliminating virgin plastic. And they're not going to be able to do that with the existing recycled plastic that's available. So they're looking for other routes, and making some of their packaging out of aluminum gives them another way to meet those goals.
Another way to look at it too is occasions or day parts, or a lot of it, like you mentioned, wine. There's also ready to drink beverages. There's all sorts of new, what would almost be considered, the alcohol category used to be beer, wine, and spirits. Now there's this fourth challenger category that's like seltzers and ready
Yes.
to drink, and even you mentioned, like white wine in a can. So we're taking these things like that used to be in glass or somewhere else, and like these cottles, like the wine bottle, but you're able to go hiking with them, or take them to the beach, or take them to a pool where you could never take glass. And because these products are high end, they might be liquor, they might be wine. It doesn't really jibe with the plastic kind of the kind of folks that are going to be packing their granola and going on a hike. The exact type that would try to avoid plastics,
Yes.
for right or for wrong. So those, you're basically creating a new day part, a new occasion to be able to bring to drink these products, or bring these liquid, alcohol or otherwise. NAs are extremely popular with millennials and Gen Z right now, for all sorts of occasions, and aluminum makes that happen, or allows that to happen.
That's a perfect button for us to go have some alcoholic beverages in aluminum, whether it's a seltzer, a wine. We can have wine, we can have seltzer. I'm sure there's some out there with gin and tonic. Actually, I saw some. The margaritas in a can, so we got some that are covering tequila. Basically, if you want it, you can get it in a can. So with that being said, that's where we're going to go. Thank you very much again, Anne-Marie. Thank you very much again, Matt. And thank you to the listener at home for listening to our talk on aluminum. Please rate, review, and subscribe. To do that, go to the iTunes podcast or Spotify app on your phone and search for Unpacked with PMMI.